this video, we are fishing 30 miles offshore under giant seaweed patches for some of Florida's most prized fish. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. We start our morning heading out of Hillsborough Inlet, and the goal today is to fish every seaweed patch we see until we find one of Florida's most popular fish, the mahi-mahi. About 5 miles into our journey offshore, we find our first seaweed patch. I grab my bucktail jig and cast it out because these bucktail jigs are the secret to catching these mahi. So I fished this seaweed patch for about 5 minutes with this bucktail jig and had absolutely no luck. My dad then decided to take a piece of bonita and toss it out there, and he ended up catching one of those Almaco jacks. It was a fun fight, but definitely not what we were looking for. So once we got this fish off the hook, we continued our journey offshore in search of Florida's most popular fish. We found our next seaweed line at about 10 miles off the coast of Florida. So I grabbed my bucktail jig and started working it up this line, and the one reason I really liked this seaweed line was because it was holding a ton of bait. In these seaweed patches, when you're this far offshore, are usually loaded with life. Triple tails, Almaco jacks, rainbow runners, and a lot of bait. But on this day, we were strictly looking for those mahi. So after about 5 minutes of working this seaweed line, it was time to move on to the next seaweed line. And this is what you do all day when you're mahi hunting. You just keep jumping from seaweed line to seaweed line. And then about 18 miles offshore, we found this massive seaweed line. So we decided to start working it, and we found these really small mahi. Once we found these mahi, we decided to set up and do some live baiting here. So on one side of the boat, I usually toss out a small piece of bonita because the bonita works a lot better for these smaller mahi. And then on the other side of the boat, I rig up one of these live pilchards. And these pilchards are great for those bigger size mahi. So I took a live pilchard, and all I'm going to do is hook them right in the throat. And when you hook these fish in the throat, they swim down, and that's usually where those bigger mahi are. So once he was all rigged up, I tossed him out there, and then I put my reel in bait runner. After about 2 minutes, we had our first fish on. Once we had this smaller mahi hooked up, all we're going to do is keep him right by the boat, and this is usually what keeps the mahi school around the boat. So as you guys can see, we're going to put an underwater camera in the water and just look how many other mahi are with him. And these are all really small fish. So with these smaller fish, you normally don't want to take them out of the water. And once you're done with these smaller fish, you want to use a de-hooker. Never just flip them in the boat. You often will kill them that way. Once we got this mahi off nice and safely, we decided to continue our journey offshore. So it took us about 15 miles until we found our next seaweed patch. And once we found this seaweed line, we were about 30 miles offshore at this point. So I casted a bucktail jig out there, and then a giant school of mahi showed up, and there were some nice sized fish in this school. So I got hooked up on the bucktail jig, and then my dad hooked up to another mahi. And let me tell you, when you run into a mahi school after fishing for 4 hours just like this, it's pure chaos on the boat. So while we were fishing this school, a giant bull mahi went by, and I would say he was about 15 to 20 pounds. And down here in South Florida, those are rare to come by. My dad wanted to get this fish in the boat as fast as possible, while I left the other smaller mahi in the water to keep the school around the boat. So my dad flipped this fish in the boat, and he was a good 22-inch fish, and these mahi only have to be 20 inches. You guys can see this bull mahi swimming right around the boat was fired up. So my brother Austin casted a pilchard out there, and next thing you know, this bull mahi erupted on it. And at first, I don't think he knew he was hooked. So my brother Austin tried horsing him into the boat as fast as possible, but the second he figured it out, he went on a crazy run and put on a show. You guys can see this fish took a crazy run here, and this is usually where we lose these giant mahi. If you guys watched one of our recent videos, we lost a 30-pound mahi right by the boat. But this fish seemed like he was hooked good. So we had this fish now right near the boat. And let me know in the comments down below, what is the biggest mahi you guys have ever caught? Because down here in South Florida, it's really hard to come by these bull mahi. So we had this fish now right under the boat, and this is where things got really sketchy. So this fish did a little turnaround and bolted right into our motor, and this is where I honestly thought we lost him. Luckily, my brother Austin was able to pull him out of the motor here, and this is where I had my best shot with the gaff. So this fish did a drive-by, and I missed the first gaff shot. Luckily, I was able to get him on the second, and we were able to land this bull mahi, and the boat went crazy. I then was able to get some awesome pictures with this mahi when he was all lit up. And then while my brother Austin was fighting the bull mahi, my dad hooked into another nice sized dolphin, and we were successfully able to land him. So after landing this other mahi, we had enough fish in the cooler for an awesome fish dinner. So we decided to make our way back home because we had a 30-mile run in front of us. We hope you guys enjoyed this fishing video, and we'll see you in the next Barjack's Family Fishing video.